RMJ Movie Reviews back again with a half Halloween horror movie review. Alright, y'all. This is the end. It's all wrapped up. Now, I'm uploading these things the same day as Halloween because I had to work today. So I had to squeeze these in last minute. So I'm not going to get to everything like I wanted to. So unfortunately, there was more I wanted to do, but this is what I could squeeze in. So I decided to review The Return of the Living Dead. I believe from 1985. Starring Clue, Gulager, James Karen, Tom Matthews, Miguel Nunez, Friday the 13th 5 fame, and a whole bunch of other stuff from back in the 80s and the 90s. A couple of Eddie Murphy movies. Directed by Dan O'Bannon, who co-wrote, I believe, John Carpenter's first movie, Dark Star, and Alien. Man, look, this is a straight up and down 80s classic. My history with the film again. My brothers and sisters rented it from the actual video store back in the 80s. And I sat and watched this film with them. And I can distinctly remember the scene that turned for me was when Tarman came out and said, "Brains." Now keep in mind, y'all, I was 6 years old. And when I saw him go, "Brains," I think I damn near had a bowel movement in my shorts. Terrified me to death. Looking at it now, it's pretty funny. Cool practical special effect, but at the time, as a 6-year-old, I almost had like some sort of, something in my heart. It almost ruptured and busted, and I almost died. I was terrified. This movie's great. It's a great movie. What I love about Return of the Living Dead is how they really kind of, in the 80s was really good for that, how they were really contemporizing kind of certain genres that had been defunct by the time Jason and Freddy came around. So, like almost like with Fright Night, but I'm not going to digress too far, but you get what I'm saying. And I love how there was the Night of the Living Dead. So, they basically took the template of Night of the Living Dead and they did a cool little spin on it in the story as if Night of the Living Dead was based on a true story. They changed the details a little bit, and then they can therefore transport and build on their own mythology for this film. And I love how they took the template of the Night of the Living Dead, his movie, and they added in kind of elements of the 80s. So you got the punk rockers, the Jerry curl, and then you kind of got just like the older, I guess they're called baby boomers, who might have been kids or teenagers when the first movie came out. So you got them, which would be Clue, Gulager, James Karen, and the Hitman from Weekend at Bernie's. And then you add them with the punk rock cast of the 80s with some 80s rock music. Cool practical special effects, and bam, that's your Night of the Living Dead for the 80s. And that's the cool thing about this movie, that they merged all those elements together. Now, I have heard people say that they kind of feel like Return of the Living Dead is a comedy too. I don't particularly see that. My point of view is I see humor in the film. Like there's, of course, the humorous bit of, "Mister, there's 100 of those things out there." 100 at the same time. That's a good one. The stuff with the girl dancing butt naked in the graveyard, and she's like kind of humping on Mark Venturini, Vic from Friday the 13th Part 5, and he goes, "Have some respect for the day." That kind of stuff like that. And, I see those things as being, and some of the stuff James Cameron does, Karen does when he's talking to Tom Matthews before they suck in the gas. I mean, there's kind of humorous things, but I don't see it more like a comedy. Like, I more look at, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is where that's just, like, a comedy. It's black, dark, Grand Guignol type of comedy, but nevertheless, it's more, Chop Top scratching his thing and, "Yeah, dirty thing," and, all that kind of stuff, Leatherface, spinning the girl in the circle, and, that's gory comedy. But the comedy doesn't push that far here like it does in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So I don't really get the whole comedy angle that people are saying. I don't particularly get it. But I will say it does have some very humorous lines, especially coming from the veteran cast. I mean, and the younger actors complement the older actors very well in this thing. Everybody's good from top to bottom here. It's really fun to just see all these guys who I remember sitting watching these movies with my older brothers and sisters and cousins who, like I said, were teenagers. And like Miguel Nunez to me and Tom Matthews are just synonymous with the with 80s horror films. And like even like for example, if I go ooh baby, Miguel Nunez pops up in my head. You know, Jason Belongs in Hell, Tom Matthews. You know, or Brains, you know, Tom Matthews will pop up in my head. These guys are synonymous with these films. You know, ingrained in my mind. You know, just classic 80s actors. Mark Venturini, of course, like I said, Vic from Friday 5. He's great too. And, you know, we gotta compliment the practical special effects. Again, you know, this isn't like super duper. It's not on the level of stuff like Gremlins or Goonies and all of that. But still, nevertheless, the Tar Man is he's brilliantly conceived. I mean, I kind of wish he would have been in more of the film. Really cool zombie. I mean, this is a low-budget movie, so that might have been the best of what they had to put into maybe him and, like, one other creature. You know, but it's really a lot of cool scares here. The film isn't really scary, but what I love is that it's got a nice momentum to it. You know what I mean? How there's constant movement. The characters are constantly trying to figure out how to get out of this situation. And then, bam, they hit another roadblock again. But they're working together like a team. And it's just a fun movie. And then you throw in the rock 80s element to it. All the rock music here. I don't know if it's considered rock alternative, but that genre, it all perfectly fits the movie well. And also they took like a template from that MTV Miami Vice thing where you're using the music to elevate the scene. Prime example, there's two scenes I really like. Well, they do it throughout the whole movie, but I'm going to think of two right off rip that I really like. I really like the scene where James Karen commits suicide and he burns himself in the boiler thing or whatever. Very effective. And for some strange reason on this DVD, when that scene pops up, it comes in with the and then by the time he gets into the furnace, the song stops playing. And I'm like, I don't know why they do that with these DVDs, especially if the song was already playing. They obviously had the rights to use it. So I don't, and there's certain parts where like Tar Man's voice is different from the original VHS tape, which I have the original VHS tape. I probably should have watched that instead of this DVD. And then like, I think the old man zombie who goes, send more cops, that voice is not in there. So I don't, it must be licensing things. But like I said, the scene where James Karen commits suicide, it's not as effective because what makes that scene, I mean, I don't know if I go so far as to use the word powerful because, you know, we think of stuff like Schindler's List and, you know, Malcolm X, you know, that kind of stuff is powerful. But, you know, I mean, I guess what really kind of brings that wicked sense of, like, sadness, even though you don't know his character that well, is that song as he's burning and you hear him scream and you could hear that music going over. And then it just goes out and you don't hear it. So I'm just like, what the hell were they thinking? I don't get it. Other scene I like is, of course, the closing credits. That, you know, it's party time. You know, when they do that again, that's awesome with the skeleton opening his eye. That's a really cool sequence, too, where the skeleton pops up and he opens his mouth. Awesome. But I love it's a little short scene where the group of the kids, they're running from, I believe they're running from the chemical plant or whatever it is where the bodies are, and they're running across the ground. I just love that overhead shot with the rain and the lightning, and then you got the rock music playing over it. Just a cool scene. The music just works perfectly here. But I will say there's so many good action gags in here. I love where Miguel Nunez and Clue, they hop into the police car and drive through the cemetery doors. Great gag. And by far, I will say, probably my favorite gag. It's very short and it's not as long an action sequence as the other ones. But my favorite gag in the whole movie is when Clue Gulager knocks Tar Man's head off with a bat. That is the best. that scene in itself represents everything that makes 80s horror movies. You know what? That scene just represents why the 80s is awesome. Just right there. He goes, I'm gonna knock his goddamn block off. And he goes, bam! I mean, he knocked that sucker off, man. He Babe Ruthed him. I love that scene. It's the best. I get such a kick out of that scene. And I never forget watching the movie. All of us as a family, I know, that's the kind of family I grew up in, guys. We all watched Return of the Living Dead as a family. But, because our rec room kind of used to have like 2 TVs at both old school RCA televisions, the big square ones. And like, if you played one movie on one TV, my dad had it hooked so it would play on the other TV across the room. So like, it was just one big rec room, and like, one side of the family was watching that TV. All of us were watching this side. But I just never forget when that scene came and he knocked his head off. I just remember my dad was like, oh! I never forget that, man. But that's, you know, that represents the 80s right there, man. Fantastic scene. And I'm telling you right now, there are 2 scenes from 80s movies I will be ripping off. That's the vomit creature and Tarman getting his head knocked off. I'll rip it off. By the time I get in the movie business, I mean, nobody will even remember it, except for movie buffs like me and you all out there. But, you know, I don't have nothing else to say about Return of the Living Dead. I mean, as you can see, I love the film. I love the film. I think it's a solid 10 out of 10 from top to bottom. And I love the nihilistic ending, too. This doesn't end on a happy note. This is very much like, it stays true to the roots of Night of the Living Dead. You know, whatever his name is, Dwayne, whatever, you know, the brother got killed in that one. But this time, they all died. So it's not just the one dude. I mean, they all get atomically blown away by the army. I mean, you know, this is not going to end well. You know, and it is kind of like with a wink, you know, with that ending montage, the typical 80s musical montage. Great flick, man. I love this movie. I cannot highly recommend it more to maybe some of you viewers out there who've never seen the film. Bear in mind, this is an 80s film. So, like I said, I mentioned all the 80s-ness. Now, there's some 80s cheese there, but it doesn't bother me, the political incorrectness. That's just what it is. Just watch, enjoy. If you all still drink, those of you out there who do, crack a beer, watch it, have a good time. Thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. And leave comments down below about The Return of the Living Dead, directed by Dan O'Bannon. Part 2 and 3, 2 I hate, is garbage. And part 3 is actually okay because Mindy Clark is actually really hot. RMJ Movie Reviews, I'll see you guys soon.